If someone says these words to you, they aren't just speaking, they are running a script. We like to think conversations are spontaneous, but manipulative people rely on specific, rehearsed phrases designed to disable your defenses. It works like computer code, where they input a guilt-inducing sentence and you output an apology. It happens in boardrooms, relationships, and family dinners, often without the victim even realizing they've been hacked. We are decoding the 5 most dangerous phrases manipulators use to control you. Once you hear these patterns, you will never forget them, and you will know exactly how to break the code. We start with the most common shield for bad behavior, which is the claim of brutal honesty. You have likely heard this before. Someone tears apart your appearance or character, and when you wince, they shrug and claim they are just being honest. It sounds noble since we are taught to value truth. However, honesty without kindness is just cruelty, with a better marketing team. In 2026, psychologists have become increasingly clear that this phrase is rarely about truth. It is about dominance. The speaker appoints themselves the judge of your reality while delivering insults wrapped in the indisputable packaging of facts. Consider the timing. This phrase almost never precedes a compliment. You never hear someone say, "You are incredibly smart," and then claim they are just being honest. It exclusively follows an attack. The manipulator uses this phrase to preemptively silence your reaction. If you get upset, you aren't fighting back against their insult, you are fighting against the truth itself. This traps you. Suddenly, you aren't the victim of verbal aggression, but rather someone who cannot handle reality. This is a calculated move to lower your defenses. They want you to believe that their lack of empathy is actually a character strength, while your pain is a character flaw. To handle the truth tellers who enjoy drawing blood, you refuse to accept their definition of the situation. When they drop the honesty bomb, do not defend yourself against the content of their insult, but instead address the delivery. A powerful response is stating that they can be honest without being unkind. Another option is saying you appreciate honesty but do not appreciate disrespect. You are separating the two concepts. By doing this, you strip away their shield. You aren't arguing with the truth, you are calling out the weapon. Watch how quickly they scramble when their moral high ground vanishes. If honesty is the shield, the phrase "you're too sensitive" is the sword, these 3 words can dismantle a person's sanity. In psychological manipulation, this is the hallmark of gaslighting. It functions by denying your emotional reality. When you react to pain or betrayal, the manipulator doesn't address their action. Instead, they put your reaction under a microscope, which shifts the entire conversation. Suddenly, the problem isn't that they lied or cheated, but that your wiring is faulty. You are made to feel that you experience too much or see things that aren't there, implying you are the broken one. The damage here goes deep. When you hear that you are too sensitive enough times, your brain actually stops trusting its own alarm system. It creates a feedback loop of self-doubt. You might find yourself writing long text messages to explain your feelings only to delete them because you are terrified of being called crazy again. The manipulator wins because you start censoring yourself. You stop setting boundaries because you don't trust your right to have them. It is an erasure of the self. They don't just want to win the argument, they want to overwrite your operating system so you no longer function without their approval. We are breaking down these tactics so you can spot them in the wild. If you are finding this useful, consider subscribing to the channel. We release detailed analyses of human psychology every week that you will not want to miss. We now return to the list. To fight this, you have to hold on to the truth that your feelings are data rather than defects. When someone tells you you are too sensitive, they are really saying your reaction is inconvenient for them. The best response is a flat refusal to debate your own experience. You can state that you are not too sensitive and are reacting to something valid. Another option is saying your feelings are not up for debate, but their behavior is. You don't need their permission to feel hurt. By refusing to defend your emotions, you force the conversation back to where it belongs, on their actions. Do not let them prosecute your personality to distract from their offenses. We move to the weapon of choice for parents, partners, and toxic friends, which is the guilt trip phrase. After everything I've done for you. This turns a relationship into a transaction. It implies that every nice thing they have ever done wasn't a gift, but a loan they have come to collect. This is particularly effective because it weaponizes your own gratitude against you. It creates an invisible ledger of debt. If you want to set a boundary, you feel you cannot because you owe them. If you want to leave, you feel stuck looking at the investment they made in you. It binds you with chains made of past kindness. You must understand that a gift with strings attached isn't a gift, but a bribe. When a manipulator uses this phrase, they reveal that their love or support was conditional all along. They were keeping score. This often happens when you try to assert independence. The moment you stop acting the way they want, they bring out the bill by listing their sacrifices. The goal is to make you feel like a moral failure for having needs of your own. They want you to believe that compliance is the only way to pay off your debt. You break this cycle by refusing to accept the invoice and acknowledging that you never signed this contract. A healthy response acknowledges their past actions without accepting the present control. You might state that you appreciate what they have done in the past, but that doesn't mean they own your future. A more direct approach is telling them they cannot use past kindness to buy your silence now. It feels harsh to say, but it is necessary. You are declaring bankruptcy on the emotional debt they think you owe, because real love doesn't keep a tab. This phrase is the darkest one on our list. Telling someone that no one else would put up with them isn't just an insult, it is a strategy of isolation. The manipulator is trying to build a wall around you while placing you on an island where they are the only inhabitant. By convincing you that you are damaged, unlovable, or difficult, they make you terrified to leave. It creates a savior complex for them, where they act as martyrs, effectively sacrificing themselves to be with you. You end up feeling grateful to your abuser just for tolerating your existence. The tragedy is that if you hear this enough, you start to make it true. You become anxious, defensive, and paranoid, because you are constantly walking on eggshells. Then, when you finally snap, the manipulator points out that this is the crazy behavior they deal with. This is a trap. They poke you until you bleed and then complain about the blood. They want you to believe that the world is a hostile place and they are your only shelter, when in reality, they are the storm. It keeps you small, quiet, and stuck. The only way to beat this is to check reality with other people. The manipulator relies on you keeping their secrets, but the moment you reach out to a trusted friend or therapist, the lie falls apart. The response to the manipulator is both internal and external. Internally, you remind yourself that their statement is an opinion rather than a fact. Externally, you can say that you don't believe it is true and are willing to take that risk. You have to call their bluff. They use this threat because they are terrified you will realize your own value. Once you do, their power evaporates. Finally, we have the escape hatch, where they claim they were just joking. The internet has a name for this, known as Schrodinger's douchebag. A person says something offensive and decides whether they were joking or serious based entirely on your reaction. If you get angry, they claim they were joking, but if you agree, they were serious. It creates a situation where they always win and you always lose. This phrase is used to test boundaries. They say something cruel to see how much you will take. If you push back, they retreat to the safety of humor and accuse you of having no sense of fun. This is insidious because it weaponizes social pressure. Nobody wants to be the person who cannot take a joke, since we want to be seen as cool and easygoing. The manipulator exploits this desire. They hide their hostility in sarcasm and irony. Notice that their jokes are rarely self-deprecating, but are instead always targeted. It is a way to say what they really think without taking responsibility for it. They get the satisfaction of insulting you, and if you complain, they get the secondary satisfaction of calling you a killjoy. It creates a dynamic where being disrespected is the price of admission for the relationship. There is a perfect way to dismantle this, which requires playing dumb. When they say something cruel and claim it is a joke, ask them to explain it. You can look them in the eye and say you don't get it, asking them to explain why it is funny. Nothing kills a joke faster than having to explain it. When they are forced to break down the mechanics of their insult, the humor evaporates and the cruelty is left exposed. Alternatively, simply state that jokes are supposed to be funny for everyone and that their comment was just mean. Do not laugh to keep the peace. These phrases are like red flags planted in your relationships. Seeing one doesn't always mean the end, but seeing a pattern does. Trust your instincts. If you constantly feel confused, guilty, or small around someone, your body is telling you what your brain hasn't accepted yet. You deserve relationships where honesty is kind, and love isn't a debt you have to repay. If you recognized any of these patterns today, you are already one step closer to breaking free. Thank you for watching, and if you want to keep learning about psychology, subscribe to the channel for our next video.